Okay, hello everyone. I believe we're live. If we're live, please write something in the chat. Let me see. Make sure everything is good, that you can hear us and see us on both Facebook and YouTube. I think this is working. Let's see. Hi, Shannon from Toronto, Larry from South Africa, Martin saying hi, Sheila from New York, Lyndon. All right, good. Salt Lake City. Great, I have friends in Salt Lake City. All right, it's going to be a beautiful class today. I'm Leo. I'm going to introduce myself as soon as we start officially in a couple of minutes. We'll wait for more people to join in. And we're going to talk about an impossible topic. Hopefully, we're going to learn how to achieve world peace according to Kabbalah in under 60 minutes. So this is going to be wild. Stick with us. If you have any questions, of course, put them in the chat. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible. And it's going to be fun. So I'm going to wait another minute and then we'll kick it off. Stay tuned. By the way, if you're on the chat, introduce yourself, say where you're from so I can see and hear you. Let's see, Kingdom of Norway, nice. Happy Father's Day. It is Father's Day, yeah. I left the whole family at home to come and teach this class. Very happy about it, actually. All right, we have Carrie from Germany, Storm from South Africa, more South Africa. Oh, great. Manoj, oh, hey Manoj, how are you? It's good to see a familiar face. Oh, here's Ruth. Great. Okay, what do you say? Shall we start? Are we starting? I think we're starting. Let's kick this off. Let's see how it goes. All right, so I'm very happy to be here in Kabbalah Explained Simply. My name is Leo, and this is my first time teaching Kabbalah Explained Simply, actually. I've always watched Gil do it, and Asaf and Marcus, and I'm very happy to be in the hot seat today because today's topic is nothing short of impossible. We're going to talk about how to achieve world peace according to Kabbalah in under 60 minutes. We're going to learn about it in under 60 minutes. I don't know if we're going to be able to achieve it in under 60 minutes, but it's all possible. We're dealing with the most powerful forces in the world, so I have high hopes. We're going to have a presentation, few videos, time for questions. This is my first time in this setup, so although this is Kabbalah Explained Simply, I can assure you that there's nothing simple about the setup here. So I hope you'll be forgiving if we have a few hiccups. Let's start it off. So, how to achieve world peace? This question, it boggled me for as long as I can remember, and I spent many years just thinking about it, about why people fight. I think that a lot of you who are here are probably, for the most part, I'm taking a guess here, you're not of the fighting kind. You're not the ones who are seeking conflicts initially. You have deep questions about life, and you're probably here because you have a point in the heart that demands answers, and you won't be happy until you get those answers. Everything else, winning an argument, fighting this, that, comes secondary. So it's interesting that a lot of people like us have this inner desire to find the answer to the meaning of life, and it's in that answer that we find the answer also to the question of peace. So if you're here for the first time, if this is your first intro into Kabbalah, this will be great because we're going to really unpack some really basic concepts here, and you'll see how Kabbalah explains quite simply, those big questions, those impossible questions that the world is struggling with. If this is not your first contact with Kabbalah, it's also going to be fun. Please ask questions, but we want to give the stage to first timers. So really ask any question on anything. There'll be time throughout, and we'll also collect the questions here. I have some friends here helping out. Ruth, hi Ruth. So it's going to be good. So where is it? So it's interesting if you think about it. You're looking at the International Space Station launched just before the end of the last millennium, the end of the century, right? This is probably the pinnacle of human achievement. I mean, to get such a massive structure to space required ingenuity and imagination and collaboration and resources and planning and execution and lots of fuel and materials. I mean, this is everything. If you had to even think about getting it done, you definitely have to get some form of collaboration, cooperation in order to make it happen. And yet, for all of our achievements, if you look back at the 20th century, and sadly, I only included the 20th century, not the 21st century, these are all the big wars that were fought really from the first year of the 20th century, starting just 2 years before the end of the 19th century, all the way down to almost the last years of the 20th century. And sadly, they continue into the 21st century. It's not like we got any respite from that. In fact, looking back at the 20th century, I was amazed when I researched this number. Over 200 million estimated deaths caused by war and armed conflict. This is only war and armed conflict. Okay, this is not. We're not even taking into consideration here things like natural cataclysms, medical things, pandemics. Right? We don't have pandemics here, although 20th century did have the influenza. So none of that. Other non-violent conflicts that bring a lot of harm to people. We're not taking into consideration any of that. This is just people dying in armed conflicts and war, right? When you think of peace and that concept, then you automatically think of war. So the question that comes to any sane person is, why can't we all just get along, right? I mean, this is not like something that that's so hard to imagine that can be done, right? We're all sensible people. If we could just talk about it and agree about a few things, we could probably run this planet pretty well, don't you think? So apparently we couldn't, but I'll tell you who did agree to cooperate and get along, and we're going to see a little clip. It's from Dr. Elizabeth Sahtouris, an amazing biologist. We actually interviewed her for a film I worked on with Asaf, Joseph, the other instructor here. It's called Crossroads Film. It's a fabulous film from almost a decade ago, and we spoke to her. And this is a clip from, not from this film, but something parallel. And she talks about the life cycle of bacteria, okay, the evolution of bacteria. Let's see what she has to say about them and see if there's something we can learn about ourselves.
I definitely see a trajectory in evolution. I see that trajectory as an ever-repeating maturation cycle, where some unity individuates, such as, for example, the early Earth's crust, which was a homogeneous mass of minerals, differentiated itself, individuated itself into bacteria, literally packaging life in little separate bits. And whenever in this cycle you have individuation, you always get tension and conflict resulting among the individuals. Now they can either bump each other off at that stage of things, because a lot of hostile, aggressive kind of competitive behavior can happen, or they can do something else to survive, and that is to start looking at some of those conflicts and figuring out, negotiating ways of resolving them. And the better they get at resolving tensions and conflicts, the more cooperative ventures begin to happen. And the more cooperative ventures beginning to happen, you can come to a whole new level of unity. In the case of the bacteria, for instance, the ancient bacteria, after going through very long periods of hostile competition and even kind of imperialism where they invaded each other and multiplied within those other kinds of bacteria, eventually they found a way to do a division of labor, and instead of each of these colonial ventures dying out when they ate up all the free resources in the other individual, they began to create this division of labor that enabled them to form the nucleated cell, which is the only cell that's ever evolved on this planet after bacterial cells. And each of those different types of ancient bacteria gave up some of their personal, so to speak, DNA to put into this nuclear library of genes. So in more ways than one, this became a very cooperative venture. And then, of course, the cycle goes on where there are many of these nucleated cells, and eventually they form a cooperative unit, which we know as a multi-celled creature, the plants, the animals, the things that we see in nature.
Okay, so bacteria was able to go through this process, individuation, then negotiation, fighting over resource, what have you, and then eventually reaching a state of cooperation, collaboration. It was the sensible thing to do, although bacteria probably doesn't think in these terms, but the evolution of bacteria and other life forms, other types of maybe single-celled life forms around it, showed that if these two organisms cooperated, then they could achieve more. We could get more out of this game of life, more fulfillment, more pleasure, right? In this case, food, the ability to procreate, multiply, expand. So bacteria was able to do it. The question is, will nature make us do it as well? That's a good question. I don't know if we should wait, but we'll see. We'll see if we should wait for that, or if this is something that we could actually try to work our way towards ourselves. But in order to do that, we need to first understand what is the meaning of the word peace. What does peace even mean? When we say world peace, everybody's saying peace for this, peace for that. We want to achieve peace, but what is peace? So, I'm sorry, this one. So peace in Hebrew is shalom. Shalom comes from the word shalem, which means whole. Okay, it's when all the parts, different qualities, different shapes, they all become part of one whole. This is a different type of relationship compared to the more, let's say, egoistic cooperation that the bacteria has. When we're talking about peace, we're talking about a connection of humans, not on the animate degree, not on as animals, but actually as people, as humans, a connection of the hearts, something that happens above or outside our egoistic desires, our natural desires to take care of ourselves at the expense of anything and everything and everyone around us. So when we think of peace, it's not exactly the concept of not fighting, as in a peace treaty, right? Or a ceasefire. No, this is something much deeper. It's a conscious problem. So if that's a conscious problem, where do we start? Indeed, where do we start? If we look at everything that's happening in the world, there's so much bad stuff, right? And we're not even talking about simply war, and war might be the result of other conditions that are getting exacerbated over time. We have famine, we have pollution, we have war, we have weapons, we have bad infrastructure, we have climate change, we have COVID, drugs, right? All these things, all those things are potential explosives that could go off beyond a certain tipping point and bring about mass changes, violent eruptions, war, harm, death, all those things. So shouldn't we first deal with all these things before we attempt to go for the big one, for world peace? What do you think? Maybe you can write in the chat and I can read it if I'm able to multitask. But it is a question, right? Because a lot of people are thinking, well, I see all these different bad things in the world. Maybe I should roll my sleeves and start fixing things, right? That's the kind of the natural inclination. A lot of people with a point in the heart, in fact, are also feeling the pain of different populations suffering around them. And the natural inclination, especially before you find the wisdom of Kabbalah, is to try to, I got to do something, right? So Baal Sulam calls these people world reformers. And this is, he talks about it in the context of how not to achieve world peace, okay? And we're going to explain it in a second, but I just realized that I didn't even introduce properly, again, for those of you who are first time into Kabbalah, when we're talking about peace in the world, we're talking mostly about one of the key articles, the seminal articles of Yehuda Ashlag, Baal HaSulam, a preeminent Kabbalist of the 20th century. And he wrote the article, Peace in the World. It was one of a series of articles that he penned that are not really speaking in the terminology of Kabbalah, as a way of appealing to people who did not come from, back then, a religious background or a Jewish background, and just people who had questions about life and the big questions in life. So Peace in the World was one of them, and he outlines in this article a lot of the principles that we're covering here today. Of course, we're doing like a top level, a surface scheme of this article, but nevertheless, if you read this article, you'll see that Baal Sulam speaks about world reformers, right? And he speaks specifically about the weakness of world reformers. So I want to do an experiment with you right now. Let's see, by the way, what did you say about we should start? People say we should start with ourselves. Okay, that's smart. Someone who heard a few things in Kabbalah. That's good. Bruce Lipton said that a human is a community of trillions of cells living in peace. That is very true, a very true statement. All the tiny creatures working together in harmony, each with different tasks to accomplish in groups to care for the whole. Very nice. So you guys have an idea. So, okay. Is it bad to wish? Is it okay? I'll leave it for a second. Let's go back to our stuff here. So let's do a little experiment. Okay, I'm going to show you something, and between yourself, feel free to write in the chat, but it's mostly for yourself watching this. Okay, so can you spot the human in this list, in this little display of embryonic stages? Okay, these are embryonic stages of different creatures, and one of them is human. And the question is, can you spot the human? Okay, give you another second. All right, I'll make it a little easier. Okay, how about now? Can you spot the human now? I'll move so you can. Yeah, by now some of you are probably guessing that some are not going to make it into human, but if you had to really guess, can you spot the human? Okay. All right, now the big reveal. Let's see if you got it. This is the human. This one right here. Okay. So it's fascinating how our view of things and of processes in reality is so narrow, so myopic. For the most part, we have no idea where things are headed. If we try to judge something just from one stage in its development, the results could be quite traumatic. I would say, and Baal Sulam says also, that this is one of the biggest hurdles to peace, is that desire to quickly see something that you think is wrong and try to correct it, try to fix it, try to do something about it. And the point is that you cannot possibly hope to make any positive changes to something you see before you unless you are certain about the end goal and then all the stages of the process that this thing, be it an apple, a baby, a grown-up, a society, the world have to go through. And yet here we are doing just that. Probably each one of us is guilty to some extent of trying to fix something that we didn't like, taking up a cause, reaching for some cardboard and putting up a sign, flying halfway around the world to do something for someone else that we think they need. Now, it is not to say that there's no place for helping one another. That's not the point. The point is, do I understand the process that is unfolding here? Do I understand the goal of this process? That's really what's the main point that Baal Sulam is putting. And we're going to read something from the article. I'm just going to find it. The idea is that unless we understand this process and we participate in it consciously, willfully, of our own volition, and we understand each step in the process, likely we're going to make, do more harm than good. And especially when the end of the process that Kabbalah speaks of ends with the Creator. Nothing short of that. So we want to become like the Creator. We need to understand what it means. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's read something here from the piece. Now you have to bear with me because I actually highlighted some things, but as I moved to this computer, all the highlights disappeared. So I'll have to read some more. Let's go. So this is from Baal Sulam, Peace in the World. He says, this is the key to understand the weakness of world reformers throughout the generations. They regarded man as a machine that is not operating properly and needs mending, meaning to remove its broken parts and replace them with working ones. This is the tendency of all world reformers to eradicate any harmful and bad in the human species. And it is true that had the Creator not stood against them, they would certainly have by now cleansed men entirely, leaving in him only what is good and useful in their minds, right? So we might as well stop everything we're doing if we're not tackling the root problem here, because we're probably causing more harm, as Baal Sulam says, because we don't understand where we are in the process. We don't understand what is the plan, how to participate in it. We are, according to Kabbalah, called to actually know what the plan is, get to know that upper force that is behind everything, the root force, the root cause, and anything short of that is simply not gonna work. I wanna actually draw something for you. Let's see if I can do it. Oops, hold on. Let me go back here. Sorry, this will take a second because this is on you. All right, you should be seeing. Okay, so you should be seeing my board. All right, so imagine we live here. This is great. Okay, this is me. I live here, and there's something happening here next to me. There's maybe there's a war. In this case, a nuclear war. Okay, God forbid. Okay. That thing is happening here, and maybe here there's a fire, right? And maybe there's other types of issues, I don't know, floods, right, tsunamis, and armed conflicts, right? This is where the drawing gets a little tricky, but bear with me. Okay, yeah. armed conflict. Yeah, it's good enough. As a gun. Okay, good. All those things are happening around me. They're all happening on this level that I'm in. Okay? I'm in this level. This is this world. This world. Now, in order for me to understand what's going on, I have to understand where those things are coming from. And in fact, they're not coming from this world, because this is the world, this is the level of let's write it here, consequences. All right? This is what's happening here. It's consequences. Where's all this coming from? It's all coming from another place. Now we draw it up here, but it's not up there. Okay? It's simply drawn above because it's higher. It's the causal place. Okay? It's where these things come from. You can think of it as this is the production line where stuff gets produced. All right? So every one of those things here has a little root that is happening here. Even me, by the way, and all the other people around me and the other people involved with anything in this world, everybody and everything has a root cause, right? Now, if I want to correct anything, I have to go to the world of causes. And by go, I don't mean, get on a bus and drive there. I have to make contact with it somehow and correct what's not working there. What's not working there is that all these different points, right? And there are many, right? There are endless, billions and billions. You can think of those as bits of data. It doesn't matter. All those points are just simply here, not connected in any meaningful way. They're simply spread out here. At least in their perception, they're not connected. They're broken. All right. So this is the world that we're dealing with, and in order for us to be able to get there, we need to know the end goal. Okay, we need to know. Sorry, that's it. There you go. We need to know the end goal of something in order for us to fix it. And to do that, the first thing we have to start doing is to stop, because by messing with those things that are happening here, let's see if I can get there. By messing with those things down here below, I'm not fixing anything. I'm just creating more problems. I'm just tangling the lines more, because I'm not going to the top. I'm not going to the root where these things are actually coming from. Okay, so this is the first thing we have to do, is just to stop. And I want to give you this this metaphor. It's not a metaphor, actually. It's an analogy, which is about the elderberry. This is an elderberry, and some of you know elderberry. You drink this syrup when you're sick, when you have coughs, whatever. It's really good. But if you harvest it before it's ripe, it actually contains cyanide-producing parts, and it can give you terrible nausea, stomach cramps. Basically, you get sick, you can die. All right. But the same thing, if you wait until the end goal, until it reached its ripe end point, you die. If you wait, not only you're happy, you're healthy. It's used in jams and everything, and it's an amazing food. So you can't judge it according to one state. In the same way, you cannot judge our world according to what you see right now, because you're seeing it from your very narrow perspective. And that's really the argument of Baal Salam against the world reformers, who are seeing one part in the world. Oh, look at this! Look at this plant. It's producing cyanide. We should probably eradicate it and make it go away, because it's dangerous. It can harm us. It can kill someone. But everything has to be evaluated only according to its final goal and how it appears to you at any given moment, according to its level of development, as Baal Salam says. In fact, we can read something here from Baal Sulam. He says, again, I've highlighted it, but some lines, but I have to read all of it. Everything in reality, good or bad, and even the most harmful in the world, even the most harmful, this is not just elderberry, right? Think of every level that you can think of, has a right to exist and must not be destroyed and eradicated from the world. We must only mend and reform it because any observation of the work of creation is enough to teach us about the greatness and perfection of its operator and creator. Therefore, we must understand and be very careful when casting a flaw on any item of creation, saying it is redundant and superfluous, as that would be slander about its operator. Note, by the way, we're not only talking about things you see outside, it's things inside of you as well. Oh, this tendency, oh, I'm lazy, I wish I wouldn't be so lazy. I should make laziness disappear. I should work harder, right? Or, oh, I'm too weak, or I'm too strong, I'm too this, all those tendencies. Everything has a place. He continues, it is common knowledge that the Creator did not complete creation when He created it. And we can see in every corner of reality, in the general and in the particular, that it abides by laws of gradual development, from absence to completion of growth. For this reason, when the fruit tastes bitter in the beginning of its growth, we do not consider it a flaw in the fruit, since we all know the reason. The fruit has not completed its development. So it is in every element of reality. When an element seems to us as bad and harmful, it is but a self-testimony of that element, that it is still in transition phase in the process of its development. Hence, we must not decide that it is bad, and it is not wise for us to cast a flaw in it. This is Baal Sulam, Kabbalist, who attained the highest level of creation. It's really like he climbed up to that second floor and is looking down at everything. That's what Kabbalists do. They write to us from their level of attainment. So here you have someone who's telling you flat out, don't do it before you know the final goal. So what is the final goal of our development, you might ask? That's a good question. Let me check the chat, by the way, because I haven't been here in a while. All right, there are a lot of things here. Hopefully Ruth is collecting questions, and we will get to them shortly, I promise. So what is the final goal of our development, you might ask? Good question. So the final goal, according to Baal Sulam from the introduction to the book of Zohar, item 39, is the Creator's desired goal for the creation He had created is to bestow upon His creatures so they would know His truthfulness and greatness and receive all the delight and pleasure He had prepared for them. Wow, I mean, it sounds great. Who wouldn't want to meet such a maker, right? Such a creator. So if this is the purpose, how do we get to that purpose? Where is that purpose? Why aren't we seeing it? Why isn't it everywhere around us? In fact, Kabbalists tell us that it's actually all around us. And this is what's happening right now. As it is, actually, I'm seeing, and this is obviously an illustration, literally and figuratively, I'm seeing something in the world through a broken lens, broken vessel, if you will. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a problem, a war, a violent conflict, disease, famine, bad people, painful experiences, harmful, all those negative things, all those things that I perceive as negative are seen through this broken lens. Just like my glasses, if I were to look at you through broken lenses and out of focus lenses, I would say that, oh, you guys are all blurry. The whole thing is broken. Nothing is connected. Nothing is sitting in place. It's all a mess. Where in reality, nothing is a mess. My sensory apparatus is a mess. And for us, our sensory apparatus is our will to receive. That's our vessel. That's literally how we perceive reality. So peace in those, according to this framework, is a process by which we gradually correct our vessels of perception, our egoistic desires, until we reach equivalence of form. So with the Creator, the force of love, bestowal, so we can receive and perceive, in this case, all the good the Creator wishes to bestow upon us. This is what the process of attaining peace is really all about, is the correction of my vessels of perception. Okay, we'll get to it. So it's really this. It's from this to this, right? What changes is what I see. What's actually happening here outside of what's above me here, right? This thing. Is it really a boom? I don't know. Is it really a love? I don't know. It's what I perceive according to the vessel, according to the lens. So how do we get there? It's a good question. The simple answer is, in Kabbalah, the Creator, God in English, Elohim in Hebrew, is equal to nature. In Gematria, which is it is the framework that replaces letters with numbers, that assigns a numeric value to each letter. The numeric value of Elohim, of God, is the same as nature, which is a hint. It's supposed to point us in that direction, that when I speak of the Creator, when I speak of the laws of the Creator, I'm really speaking of the laws of nature, the complete set of laws of nature. This is what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to, because nature is at peace when it is in a state of homeostasis. Or also, in order for us to get to a state of peace, we have to reach homeostasis, or as Kabbalah calls it, equivalence of form with the Creator. The Creator is the force of love and bestowal. It's that quality. His desire is only to bestow good. We saw the purpose of creation, as Baal Sulam and other Kabbalists write about it. He just wants to give us the good. We are unfortunately unable to perceive this good because we don't have the right vessels. We're not in equivalence of form with that quality. We're in disparity of form. And so if we change our intention to match the intention of the Creator, already we can be in some contact. And I have a drawing for you for that. Let's see. So, yeah, good. So, the Creator, oops, all right. The Creator, He's good, plus we'll call him, okay. He's the desire to bestow. That's what He gives. He gives only good. Make it even red. Only good. Only this. And we are, humanity, myself, all of us together, we're a vessel. Reception, right? Receiving, opposite the Creator. In this current form, we cannot receive all the good. You probably heard about it in other lessons. When the light meets the Kli, because of their disparity, the pleasure extinguishes the deficiency. It cannot stay there. But if we developed a thing called a screen, oops, okay, so this is the desire to receive, but this would be the intention, intention to bestow. So our matter is opposite the Creator, right? It's this minus. The Creator's matter is only bestowal. So we're opposite there. But where we can meet is actually in our intention. My intention can be equivalent to the Creator's intention. And that allows me to already be in contact with this force, to start to feel what this force is trying to give me. And what happens when we do this, something very interesting happens there. Remember all these points from before, these points up here, right? When we begin to behave in this way, when each one of those egoistic points, egoistic desires to receive pleasure, because this is what everything is. All of creation is made up of this desire to receive pleasure, maximum pleasure, minimum pain, minimum payment, at the expense of everything and everyone. But if we're able to, through the wisdom of Kabbalah, learn how to apply a correct intention around or over our egoistic desire, we can now form these connections. I'll tell you a secret, the connections are already there, but we can now start to connect with all the other points in the system, but in a positive way, the right kind of connections, or rather reveal the state that is already there of positive connection between all the pieces. And when we do that, because of our equivalence of form with the Creator, right, who wants to bestow, we begin to have this new connection, this new network. That network can now feel, can now sense the influence, the positive, all the good the Creator wants to give us. It's that simple. It's already there, except we are not relating to one another in the right way. This is really what's happening here. So maybe you could say, well, if we just wait long enough, won't evolution naturally get us there? Because that's what evolution does. Look, it did it to bacteria. Maybe it will do it to us humans as well. Well, yeah, we might get there, but it's going to be a long path. And Baal Shalom writes about it. He writes about these two paths that we have to choose from. And that's what separates humans from all the other degrees of nature. Still, vegetative, animate, all the animals, they don't participate consciously in this process. They can't choose to move through that process quicker. Basically, if we are interested in reaching this state of homeostasis, we can actually get there faster. We can get there by ourselves. Let's read another excerpt from Baal Sulam, and we're almost done, and then there'll be time for questions. Let's see. There it is. I hope you can see it. So, the law of development, which is spread over the whole of reality, is certain to reform all the evil to good and useful, and acts through the power of the government of heaven above, meaning without asking permission from the people. That's the force of evolution, right? It's moving everything towards the good. However, all those dwellers on the earth, right? However, the Creator placed knowledge and authority in the hands of men and permitted him to accept the above-mentioned law of development under his own authority and government, and handed him the ability to hasten the process of development as he wishes, freely and completely, independent of the boundaries of time. It turns out that there are two authorities here acting in the above-mentioned conduct of development. One is the authority of heaven, right? The upper force, which is gradually moving everyone and everything to that goal, which is sure to turn everything harmful and evil to good and useful. But it will come in its time, okay, a long time. Think of the time that it took for the Earth to be created after the Big Bang, almost 14 billion years before, or 10 billion years before our solar system and Earth, right? And then how long before vegetation and humanity? There's an acceleration. We can accelerate that last bit. It doesn't have to be thousands of years. It can be literally years, months, weeks, days. It will come in time in its own way, heavily and after a long time. Then there is the authority of the earth, when the evolving object is a living, feeling being, us, animals. It suffers horrendous torments and pains while under the press of development, which carves its way ruthlessly. If we just let it happen, there's going to be a lot of pain. As there already is. All this war, millions of casualties of war, and we're just on the verge of maybe more conflicts. However, the authority of the earth consists of people who have taken this above-mentioned law of development under their own government and can free themselves entirely from the chains of time, and who greatly accelerate time, namely the completion of the ripeness and correction of the object, which is the end of its development. Such are the words our sages said about the complete redemption and complete correction of Israel, Yashar Kel, those who aspire to reach the Creator. And thus they clarified the verse, I, the Lord, will hasten it in its time. Rewarded, I will hasten it. Not rewarded, in its time. And finally, because this is Kabbalah explained simply, I want to finish with a clip that demonstrates it. Everything will be said very simply, after which we can ask questions. All right, so clip.
I just attacked all my friends and neighbors just for trying to help me. I'd like to commit myself.
Very well. Shall I show you to your room, or would you prefer to be dragged off kicking and screaming?
Ooh, kicking and screaming, please.
As you wish.
No!
There you have it. We can go freely or kicking and screaming, but we have to go there. So this has been under 60 minutes, a survey of the process by which we could attain a world peace. I'm happy to take your questions. I have a longer kind of, not a longer actually, like a at a glance flow, but I think it was pretty clear. So maybe let's take some questions. And Ruth has taken some questions. Thank you, Ruth. So let's see. Andrea is asking, how are the dots united without doing something? Is the work of the reformers a way to unite the dots? I find that the explanation is not clear. Thank you. It's a very good question. No, the work of connecting the dots is up to Kabbalists. Those are the people who have a point in the heart, who have, first of all, a desire to find the purpose of creation, to come into contact with the upper force of love and bestowal, and we do it through equivalence of form. So we study Kabbalah under the influence of the wisdom of Kabbalah, under the influence of the reforming light. We make efforts in the group according to instructions from Kabbalists, and the reforming light works on us. That's one thing I did not mention because I didn't know if we have time for it, but as we develop, right? You remember that embryo developing through the different stages, the apple, everything. We kind of take it for granted that these things simply happen, right? They simply evolve. And yet it's not so simple. It's not so simple to recreate it by ourselves. It's practically impossible. We can play around with nature, but we can't really do what nature does. Why? Because there are forces at work here, and they work on a desire. Because we are a desire to receive pleasure, to always get to the next stage where I can receive more pleasure. On a corporeal level, you see it as a child evolves, right? First, the baby evolves without even participating in the process. It's just there. He's just a super passive participant. That's how he participates, right? Then a child already has some relationship with his environment. He plays, he makes active efforts. I want to play with a fire truck. I want to do what the adults do. And on that desire, the light works. It's the same light, right? It's the same forces. We call it the forces of evolution, but Kabbalists call it light. Okay, the influence of those forces as they are felt in the kli, in the vessel. It works. It works on it, on that desire, and it takes it to its next level in development. Every creature in nature develops in this way. We call it play. Animals play, right? They play the next degree, and then they grow into that next degree. And we are the same as humans. That animal side of us is developing exactly the same way. But to develop into our next degree as humanity, the spiritual level, we have to do it consciously, voluntarily. It won't happen passively like the bacteria. We have to learn about it, find out the goal, make efforts to do it, and on these efforts the light works. So the people who will the people who will connect these dots, these are the Kabbalists. They're the doctors of the soul. They're the ones who learn first how to put a screen over the desire to receive, restriction, screen, reflected light. Those are all the concepts we learn about in the wisdom of Kabbalah. And the light works on our efforts and create this first level of connection. And then the rest of humanity, other circles of humanity, will follow in the footsteps of Kabbalists, as it has always been, as far as movement into the spiritual world. Oksana, how do we attain world peace? I did not get what I should do. Okay, so maybe let me actually let me bring this slide in, because this will sum it up. Okay, I hope you can see this. All right, I'll try to move also not to. So, starts on the upper left. I know there's a laser pointer somewhere here, but I'm not sure. Oh, actually, hold on. I know I can do it. Laser pointer, okay. Oh, there you go, nice. All right, so we start with, for all our achievements, humanity are still hopelessly involved in wars, conflict, and harm. Okay, this is clear, we see it with our eyes. I see wars because we have not yet reached the end of our development. So it's like that unripe elderberry, which is full of cyanide, or the sour apple, or an embryo who's not fully formed. Okay, those things they're not there yet. So we may confuse them for something bad, terrible, harmful, and want to eradicate them. So trying to fix anything on this level is against the purpose of creation, because we don't understand what is the end goal. So until we understand it, we don't do anything. So the first step to world peace is, first of all, to stop. Stop trying to fix the world. Okay, that's the first step. Second step is you come to study. We call it the wisdom of Kabbalah. Maybe for others it will be the wisdom of connection. Either way, education is the key. People have to learn where they are in the system. So to get to the purpose, I have to connect with the upper force through equivalence of form. That's what we briefly mentioned. Okay, the upper force is all bestowal. I'm all reception, but I can acquire a new intention to bestow. That's the change that the wisdom of Kabbalah gives me. The upper force is good, so I have to be good. What is good? Good is to understand that the benefit of the individual and the benefit of the collective are one and the same, that we're all interconnected. Okay, that's that quality that we talked about. Oh, sorry, where is this? Talked about before, right? Here, we're all interconnected here. We don't feel it. Sorry, we don't feel it, but this is actually the state that we're in. But we can't see it. And that's the problem. We're separated by our egos. That's the uncorrected desire. Then I understand. Then we need to work hand in hand with nature, not against it. Not take wild guesses. Oh, let's fix this pollution. Let's create more renewable energy. Let's save the whales, or kill these guys, or save these other guys, or stop these guys from doing something. All these aggressive actions are very dangerous because they are done without knowledge of the complete system. So we need to work hand in hand with evolution, with nature's goal. So I have to know the plan and I have to participate in it consciously. Then, lastly, we don't actually do it ourselves. Rather, we only yearn to do it. We make efforts to connect, and the reforming light does the work for us. Just like I don't grow myself, I only play the next degree that I want to reach, right? I want to become a grown-up. I want to learn how to run faster, jump higher, read better, do all those things. So I play the next degree, right? I was looking at my son, by the way. He's just 5 now, but a few years ago I was trying to learn to walk. He didn't know how to walk. I couldn't teach him how to walk. All I could do is prop him, and he would try to flail his foot forward, fall, get up, try again. Same with talking. The first few months was just and this and that. He was just making efforts, and the light, the forces of evolution were working on those efforts. It's the effort that counts, not succeeding in it. The light works on our efforts to connect. That's how we reach peace. Again, I said we're moving very quickly through it, but I hope it sheds some light. All right, so how do we attend? Okay, I got that. Do you think when there's 600,000 of us studying, praying at the same time, that we'll see the Mashiach? Okay, there are a lot of terms here, and a lot of them are probably not as clearly understood. 600,000 is a level of intensity. Okay, it's an intensity of the connection. Kabbalists explain, they draw us the tree of life, the sphirot, right? Malchut, the quality, the quantity, I'm sorry, of the connection, the intensity of it is 1. Zeir Anpin is 10. Bina hundreds, Chokhmah thousands, Arich Anpin of Chokhmah 10,000. When Zeir Anpin, which is 60, okay, 6 Sfirot times 10, 60, goes up to, connects with Malchut, goes up to Arich Anpin, we get 600,000. So this is an intensity, it's a degree of connection. All right, and Mashiach is also, it's a force that pulls. It's not a person or an entity or a quality or an alien. It's a force that now, when we match that force from below, it can work on us from above. It's the same exact principle. So playing from below at a certain intensity of play, playing in connection, and then that force can work on us. Why do some people die while still babies when we're born here for a purpose? Thanks. Okay, this is a huge question, and sadly we won't have time to get into it now. Maybe if you guys stick around for the Zoom, we have a special Zoom session in 5 minutes after this session. Maybe we'll get to it there. But the whole question of why some people are born, some are not, some die, some don't. There's a whole intricate system with trillions of connections, and the way these are influencing everything else, it's like you need to rise to that level to see why. You need to reach your root in order to see why things happen the way they do. Rest assured that nothing is lost. There is no, death as we see it from our limited perspective is simply a level that we cannot cross with our current vessels. But when you acquire a screen, a masach, now you're able to rise above the level of consequences. You can rise to the root, and you can start to see things from a different vantage point. So suffice to say that. Let's see. Hold on. I want to, Ruth. I want to give room to new students. Let's see. I don't understand. Are the Hamas bombs just a matter of correct investment? Oh, that's a nice question. Yeah. So I'm in Israel. I was sitting in the shelter when Hamas bombs were falling. So the Hamas bombs, everything, in fact, and this is a hard thing. You cannot reconcile these two contradictions in your vessels of reception, because your vessel of reception only know one thing: pleasure over pain. Okay, so that's the only paradigm that they have. We're trying to rise to a higher level, another paradigm, another framework of existence. Okay, where everything is judged according to bestowal, is perceived through the lens of bestowal. When you look at things from that perspective, they look very different. I don't have any example from this world, except to say that everything looks upside down. Everything acquires a different quality when you start to see it from that perspective, because you see the wholeness of the system. And as I said, explosions, deaths, those things, they become movements within the system, not these finite, painful things to the will to receive. Because we rise to a higher level, we come out of our will to receive, we begin to exist in the will to bestow. What happens to the will to receive doesn't matter. It's like, the closest we can give an example of it is like when you cut your nails, right, or your hair. That's a part of you, it's a part of your body, but it's a lower degree, right? It's on the vegetative degree. It's stuff that grows. It's not flesh. So you can cut it, you don't feel pain, right? Why? Because it's in a lower degree. When you rise to a degree above the flesh, which is an expression really of your will to receive in this world, it's a clothing, you can say. When you rise to a level above it, then the events of this world, they happen on a different level. It's hard to explain. You have to attain it. Let's see. We have 2 more minutes. So I'm sorry, just to finish the answer to Dan, when we correct our vessels, everything will change. And specifically about Hamas, I'll just say one word, extra word, because it is important. Just like we said, there's a group of people who starts to do it first, right? Starts the correction first, the Kabbalists. In the system of humanity, those Kabbalists are called Jews, right? Israel, Jew from the word unity, Israel from the word Yashar El, straight to the Creator. That's the group that has to do it first. So all the conflicts, all the violence, or anti-Semitism, everything that pressures this group is done only because this group is not doing what it needs to do, which is to teach humanity to connect in the right way, to remember how to do it themselves and then teach everyone else. But that's again a topic for a different lesson. So until then, yes, there will be bombs, there will be other things, but when we correct ourselves, everything will, all that perception will change. Our reform is not often moved by the desire to bestow. Not quite. There are other qualities that we need to get into, and we won't be able to explain it now, but reformers are moved by other qualities, other attributes, let's call it, that we didn't get to. You know, we have truth, justice, mercy, and they are moved by seeing these inequalities in society, but they are moved to correct them, not from the right vantage point. So that's why they cause usually more damage. Created not complete creation. Yes, he did not complete it. From your point of view, from your perspective, he left one tiny place of free choice. Otherwise, you'd be an animal. If Creator wanted to finish everything, he would create still vegetative, animate, speaking degree as animals, angels, as we call that quality, right? And then you would automatically evolve to where the Creator wanted you to evolve. But then where's the fun? Where's the consciousness? You can't evolve will involuntarily. You can't evolve consciousness unconsciously. It doesn't happen. So he left that little space for you. I think with that, we have to close. Everything happened very quickly. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's a desire, maybe we'll do another session on world peace and we can go deeper. I certainly had a lot of fun. So thank you to everyone for being here, for sending your questions. I think we're going to Zoom, and we'll see you all next week in Kabbalah Explained Simply. I'm not sure who's going to be here. Maybe Gil, maybe someone else. It's going to be good, I'm sure. So thank you and have a great evening.